Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I'm your host, Mystery Red, and this is my disclaimer. This beta read in Concret is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. Today, we're doing a beta read in Concret of some original fiction. We are back with Crystal Committee on Chapter 7 of Infinite Shades. And in my description, I will include a link to my reads of chapters 1 through 6, and we are going to just dive right in. Summary, well, it's Sam. Years later. No spoilers. Notes, we've jumped a few years. We've seen Garrett, Amanda, but what about Sam? Now we do. She's changed. I hope I convey this well. I've got a couple of tweaks I need to make, but they don't change the story. See the end of chapter for more notes. Chapter 7. Sam, her blonde hair cut short, looking to be in her mid-20s, is working diligently with the other members of a team in front of a whiteboard displaying images of the victims of a serial killer. Agent Scott exits his office and ensures she is present before calling across the room. Clemens? Yes, sir. Sam turns around. He smiles at her startled response. My office, please. Yes, of course, sir. Sam closes the file she's reviewing, hustling toward Scott's office. Did I do something wrong? Depends. Is that what you assume? Scott asks, giving her a hand to close the door behind them as he retrieves a stack of papers from the printer. I make no assumptions, sir. Good. He hands the pages to her while gesturing to the chair. From the SAC Seattle office, I've printed them twice, but they are still coming out jumbled. She drops into the chair in front of his desk. I was unable to open the attached file for your eyes only, but I was provided the option to print. It appears it's corrupted. Appearances, yes, sir. Sam's eyes move as if reading the contents with ease. Scott takes note. A hint of an impressed understanding crosses his lips. So this makes sense to you? We're both aware of my association with SAC Garrett, so we don't need to pretend it is a surprise. He'd send something sensitive asking for my opinion. You? Yes, via me? She holds up the pages. Encrypted. I have the key. Like banks, when they send the PIN number and the card in separate mailings. Do you need to be alone? No, sir. I may need to utilize your computer or your phone. Secured? She asks, reviewing the pages, her mind taking a picture of them. Yes. He watches her. You've done things like this for him before? He's been aware of my memory problem longer than I have. What good SAC wouldn't take advantage of that? He chuckles. Been trying, but appears you're already spoken for. She smiles. Oops, Sam smiles. He's sharing while enabling me to train and obtain certifications. Can't be an agent without the official stuff, right? Yes, but she cuts him off. Sir, I'm here because I chose to be. I expect no preferential treatment. Yet you are. His eyes zero in on the papers. Only because you perceive I should be. She stands, moves to the shredder, places the stack inside, then waits as they disintegrate into bits. I asked, backed up by a request from Garrett, to not be treated differently. I don't feel that I have, so please, no need to walk on eggshells. But if you're curious, feel free to ask. I'm pausing. So, a couple things. So, only because you perceive I should be. She stands, moves to the shredder, places the stack inside, then waits as they disintegrate into bits. I asked, backed up. There we go. So I think when I first saw I asked at the beginning, you know how like when we write dialogue, we'd be like, can I have a cup of coffee? I asked. So I think my brain was like, okay, that's inside the quotation marks. So she's saying it. And that was happening as I was reading. And so it slowed me down because it wasn't how we typically saw it, although it is how we would speak. So it makes sense. So that was all me. It's reading really well. So far, my thoughts are the typical things that we usually go over where I'm like, okay, we don't have internal thoughts from Sam. And our actions are pretty good. Yeah, I mean, mostly it's going to be internal thoughts so far. And I learned, I don't know if I was told this before or if I just learned it. I don't know because I am reading for several people. But Crystal Committee just let me know that this was a script, like a screenplay. And so that changes and makes so much sense now why there are no internal thoughts. I'm like, I'm like, this is a very unique style of writing. I feel like that's what I was saying in the last chapter review. And now I'm like, oh, yeah, it is a unique style of writing. It's a very specific style of writing being translated into a piece of like a fictional book. And now it just makes so much sense. So much sense. Okay. Anyway, we're going to get back to it. Okay, I'm asking, his eyebrows raise. By the way, who is this? Hang on, I'm going to highlight my spot so I don't lose it. Um, Agent Scott. I do not know what Agent Scott looks like, and I'm just going to point that out. And if you're looking while they're having dialogue, you could slip in what Sam sees. What does he look like? What does he look like to her? What does she think of him? Those are some things you could, somewhere in this dialogue, you could use, when she's observing him, or when he's speaking, something that he does, like that is a mannerism, like with his facial features. Does his brow furrow? What color is his hair? What kind of haircut does he have? If you're looking for giving these people faces, if you don't have faces for them, I usually go on Pinterest and I'll search up male actors or male models or something to give me pictures of men, or and try to put in an age, like, is he, what is his age? I don't know if he's an older man, a younger man, I don't know. But I'll make a board, like a Pinterest board of the piece that of the piece of fiction that I'm working on with using the working title, and then I'll build that board full of pictures that kind of give me vibes of the person that I'm wanting them to portray. And I'll often use actors specifically because then you can go and look them up like on YouTube or something, and you can watch an interview or watch them acting in a scene, and you can look at how they speak and how the lines of their face move and how what their mannerisms are. And then when you're writing them in fiction, you can accurately depict those facial expressions, like, this person was saying this, and this is, or they were in this type of situation, pick an emotion. Okay, they were smiling or they were happy, and when they're happy and when they were smiling, little wrinkles formed at the corners of their brows, of their eyes, and their eyebrows lifted, the corners of their mouth pulled back, and they had a dimple. So you start to be able to observe the body language and the facial lines, and how the muscles move in the face, and things they do with their mouth when they speak. So there's so many things you can observe, and then you can tuck them into your writing when you're describing your person. All right, we're gonna get back to it. Let's see. So he's asking, list of dates, times, a suspected correlation. He wants to know what I recall of those times or what events I could connect with them. She shrugs. That's it, sir. And you can do that just by looking at them. Yes, sir. She taps on her head. Stored in here like a photograph. Mind deleting the original email those were attached to? That's sensitive, he asks, moving it to the trash icon. Don't know yet. Processing it takes time. One more favor? Permanently delete it. It's not, I'm going to point out that you're not using conjunctions. I noticed it a little bit earlier, but I didn't say anything about it because, like, here she used one. I'm going to go back and look really quick while it's come up. You could probably screen for them yourself. You don't need me to do it. But I did notice it one other time, and I did not say anything because I don't want to be petty. So it's like I don't always, but if I see it again and again, I will mention it. Here's the other one. I'm going to move my little cursor back and forth without giving up the highlight I've got down below. We're both aware of my association with S.A.C. Garrett, so we don't need to pretend it is a surprise he'd send something sensitive asking for my opinion. That could be it's. So, if I notice it more than once, I'll go ahead and point it out. They are, up here you have they are instead of their. THEY''RE. Let's see, but they're still coming out. You have they are, and that's with Mr. Scott speaking. So yeah, if that's something you want to do. Some people are hard, like we've talked before, where some people are hardcore. You must use conjunctions when, if the opportunity arises. I am not always like that. Sometimes if it's the way a character speaks formally, then it's appropriate. Here, I'm noticing that both he and she have spoken and not used a conjunction, and they've both spoken and used a conjunction. I'm going to point out when I see an opportunity, and we're going to leave it up to your preference. That's what we're going to do. Okay. Permanently delete it. It is not something that the text will find of interest, even if they decode it. That is, if he didn't include a self-destruct. Clemens, he questions as if defending against an accusation. What? Your intentions and curiosity couldn't have been more apparent if you'd plastered them on a billboard, sir. She looks at him. Any right-minded agent worth his salt would do exactly what you were thinking. You're the one who said, curiosity can solve as many problems as it can create. It is up to you as agents to determine where that line is and not cross it. There's an opportunity right there, but again, they're in a formal like a potentially formal dialogue, so whatever. He smiles, not used to having my own words thrown back at me. Apologies, sir. It is a bad habit of mine. There's another one right there. But what has put you at the top of your class, he says, making the keystrokes. His instructions were not to do so until you asked. Sam smiles, shaking her head. Figures. I do know my being here would be uncomfortable and taken as favoritism by the others. I do appreciate your candor in this matter. Garrett's an old friend. I owe him a few favors. This one, he didn't need to call in. You're an asset, better an agent than a paid consultant. I'm sure your fees would be beyond budgetary allowances. Not in it for the money. Sam reaches for the phone. He nods in permission. She picks it up and rests it between her shoulder and ear while she dials a number. I'd rather put my mind towards making things right and just in the world, not accumulating money. That I could do without blinking. Not something you should say in front of my superior? Why not? It's the truth. Primping and pretense would suggest I answer that with a no, unless qualified with the all through legal channels. Vegas, Atlantic City, the stock market, all have a great deal to fear from people with my abilities. I simply choose not to act on them. Not many can say that. I kind of want a facial expression from him here. This is true. It's not my style, but it does make me adept at identifying those who are trying through not so legal means. She waits as the call connects, then enters a few more numbers. Why were you able to point out the players in our mock ring of thieves quicker than anyone ever has done before? Okay, so he's asking her why you were able to point out. So should this be a question? And I kind of want an action or a body language from him again. I'm unable to determine what tone of voice to ask this in because I don't have any, I don't have an image. I don't have a visual of him. So I don't know. I can't picture I'm trying to figure out his tone. Wasn't completely made up. The best lies are those that are majority truth. Sam holds up a finger as she presses additional buttons. Specific details were changed, but it was an ongoing investigation. Fresh eyes were needed. You dropped it on the candidates to see how we'd process the information, hopefully garnering some new insight. You arrest them? She staves him off with a hand as someone answers the other end. I said on. Agent Jenkins, Samantha Clemens for SAC Garrett. Is he available? Sam idly stands by, listening as she looks up at the clock. Yeah, I understand. That'll be fine. Let him know I called, and it's nothing major. I had a few moments and thought I'd check in. She pauses and smiles at the interruption. Always on top of things. He'd be lost without you. Tell him you need a pay raise. I said so. Sam laughs. Yeah, it'll be nice to meet you as well. Bye for now. Disconnecting the phone, she looks up at Scott. Best gatekeeper and most highly underrated assistant this world has ever known. Words of praise coming from you. To answer your earlier question, we did arrest them. All of them. So here's another opportunity for body language. I like this action of her being on the phone. This paragraph's great. I just need, I need the same kind of visual. Use your space. So imagine your office space and use your space. Like she puts the phone down. What does she do next with her body? Is she standing? Does she put a hand on her hip? Does she drum the tabletop? Does she put a hand on top of the desk? Does she cross her arms? What does she do? What is her attitude towards him? What is his towards her? And when you use those, I'll be able to intone tone of voice. I'll be able to derive tone of voice from the text. All right, here we go. With a ring that size, it's hard to know. The major players are in custody. Okay, so we have an extra space in here, and I kind of thought it was a break, but it's not. We're continuing our dialogue. Okay. With a ring that size, it's hard to know. The major players are in custody. They won't be for long with that much money at stake. Someone is going to spring their boss and silence any witnesses. Call it loyalty amongst thieves moving up the food chain, or simply a large payday. A rather grim outlook for someone your age, don't you think? Yeah, see, so I'm guessing based on the dialogue what the tone of voice is, but I don't have it. I'm just guessing. As you're aware and are plotting to take advantage of, I'm older than I appear. While much of it is classified, you know my previous experience from the Bureau. So we did not use a conjunction here. I'm not saying you should, just pointing it out. Yes, he chuckles. We're going to miss you around here. Sure, I can't convince you to stay. So I kind of like, he's chuckling. So his head might tilt a little bit. He might lean toward her a little bit. Not quite flirty, but, just friendly, and like he could look at her, something to that effect. I guess I need him to become a person. Right now, he's just a voice. While I appreciate the offer, educating isn't my cup of tea. I have difficulty translating what I absorb into a means others can learn. No offense, but most that come through these doors would have an issue with my apparent age, above normal education and sex, not to mention my relationship with Garrett. A hurdle many of them need to get over, Scott counters for sympathy points. True, but it does lead to questions I don't want to answer, she smiles. Prefer to be a team player, sir. As you've mentioned on that matter, how is that coming? Within expectations. Okay, so at this point, when she's saying she wants to be a team player and he's asking how it's going, you could have Sam internalizing thoughts as she kind of like recalls something maybe not going that great, or something going better, or what are her internal thoughts about how things are going for her. So that's an opportunity right there. Not getting to the proper conclusions fast enough for you, he asks. They are when there's a breadcrumb dropped, which part of my assignment was not to do. I can't help it. It's all right there if they'll just tie it together. She moves her arms around to expound her point. They keep looking to me for the answers. I am not a leader. So here she's like, I am not, but you could use conjunction if you wanted, just an opportunity. You are, Scott winks. I would keep that the way it is. You just don't like to admit it. Breeds false reliance. I kind of want her to make a face right here. I kind of want to see like an expression from her. Like, show me Sam's personality to go with her words. Doesn't negate the truth. Got me there. Have you read any of them on your memory? He asks. No, sir. While I'm uncomfortable with the omissions and misdirects, it is a learning experience for me. It's glad you see it that way. Are they ready to break from the nest? As I mentioned before, I think this would be comma, sir. I believe, as she's addressing him. As I mentioned before, sir, I'm not comfortable making those assessments. Not yet, he leads. She attempts to delay. Again, I just spit it out, Clemens. A simple yes or no. Sir, your gut feeling. You don't want that. Her head lowers. Yes, I do. I was hesitant at first, but now I see the wisdom of Garrett's choice to mingle amongst as one of them and assess what he seeks in his agents. He didn't tell me what he was looking for, but assured me you'd locate the right people, and I should follow your recommendation. Kind of contemplating that one's a little bit long, so I was kind of toying with it in my head already. He didn't tell me what he was looking for, but assured me you'd locate the right people, period. He also told me I should follow your recommendation. Still don't like it, Sam grumbles. It's deceitful. It's not my favorite aspect of the job either, nor being blind to what he's attempting to build. However, what I know of the man suggests that if I'm in the dark, this coming through unofficial channels is because it is better that way. There's another opportunity right there if you want it. He does seem to always be a few steps ahead, doesn't he? And a surprise rabbit in every hat. He chuckles with a nod towards Sam. Never knew him to be close to anyone. I'll correct that. I always suspected he had no life outside of the job, but I can see the two of you relate on a level I probably will never understand. Correct? Okay, so that's a long line too. And then he says, like, he's correcting himself. So at this moment, you could actually show him pause right here and rethink his words and take a different position. Yeah. He's whole business all the time, but between you and me, she winks. His position had caused a lot of heartaches when it comes to familial, romantic, even friendship type relationships. He's lost more than one ever should and holds himself responsible for many of them. To some, it makes him appear harsh and bitter, but you know the truth. It's good to see the old man has someone who he trusts enough to send them into this free for all as his talent scout. Thanks, Sam accepts, already recognizing the voice on the other end. Wasn't expecting your call back so soon. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so she's suddenly on the phone again. Did she never put it down? Oh, the phone rang. I missed it. I missed a line. Oh my goodness, I missed a whole line. I thought something was wrong. Let me try that again. You know the truth. It's good to see the old man has someone who he trusts enough to send them into this free-for-all as his talent scout. The phone rings, startling both of them. He answers it. Scott. Yes, sir, of course. She's right here. He hands the handle over to Sam. For you. Thanks, Sam accepts, already recognizing the voice on the other end. Wasn't expecting your call back so soon. Yeah, I got it. Scott motions that he will give them the room. Sam shakes her head. He returns a quizzical glance, not understanding. Scott is trying to exit. I'm trying to do that, but he's making it difficult. All right. Second. She places her hand over the mouthpiece. You're required to stay. Our conversation as a cover. She tips her head, hinting at the others out in the main room. So they don't ask questions, and I have to lie later. Okay, Scott shrugs and drops into his chair. I'll explain in a minute. She redirects her attention to Garrett. Okay, done. Sam laughs, then pauses. You sure? She reaches down and hits the button for the speakerphone. You're live. Special Agent Scott. Garrett's voice comes through. SAC Garrett. Scott returns with a surprised peek in Sam's direction. Sam shrugs. Don't ask me. It was his request. Okay, I'm trying to stop myself, but it's reading, so I keep wanting to keep going at the same time. That one line, okay, I don't want to lose my spot. This one line back here where I messed up, like I missed the entire line following it, and I think it was my brain tripping over. This is a little bit long right here, and then all of a sudden my brain just skipped the line completely. Other than that, I think we're fine. Okay, let me get back to business. Let's see. A witness to this conversation is appreciated, Garrett says at the open line, and a heads up for you with some time to formulate reasoning behind my pulling Clemens back this way sooner than I had anticipated. Okay, that one I managed. Let's see. And a heads up for you with some time to formulate. There's something about this. And a heads up for you with some time to formulate. Okay. I read it okay the first time. I might mess with this one a little bit if I were you. I think the parts my mouth is tripping over is here. And a heads up for you with some time to formulate reasoning behind my pulling Clemens back this way sooner than I had anticipated. Yeah, it's something, I think it's right here is why there's something about it that is slowing me down or causing my brain to give pause. I don't know if understanding how the mind pulls together words commonly put together to form thoughts, and as you're reading, it tripped over this combination. That's what we're going to go with, and we're going to keep going. I understand, Scott stammers. This related to what you sent, Sam asks. I'm afraid so. I hope I'm reading too much into it and that there isn't a connection, Garrett states. Afraid there is. Buried in a data trail? Had to be. Only way. She shakes her head as if some age-old puzzle thought solved. Puzzle thought. She shakes her head as if some age-old puzzle solved. Puzzle was solved? I'm going to read it exactly the way it is, but my brain is not liking it. Okay. Afraid there is. Buried in a data trail? Had to be. Only way. She shakes her head as if some age-old puzzle thought solved was missing an important piece. Puzzle. This combination right here is not working. She shakes her head as if some age-old puzzle was missing an important piece. There you go. Maybe. Just omitting those two. Maybe. I don't know. It's an option. Yes, Garrett says. Any surveillance, video, audio, accidentally snapped tourist photo, or the like available? Especially in the earlier occurrences, as I was incapacitated for most of that time frame. We're looking, but we've not come up with anything new. To be expected, Sam mumbles with some disappointment. Why you brought this to me? Okay, I'm going to pause. So we've got Garrett talking. Who is saying this? Is this Scott? Is this Sam asking? Because we've got three people in the room. We've got Scott, Sam, Garrett. Stammers, asks, states. Garrett's not going to have body language or actions because he's on the phone. But you've got Scott and Sam's body language to work with. You've got them, you got Scott in a chair, and you've got Sam standing there, maybe beside the desk. What do we do when we're on the phone? Think about what we do. We don't just stand there perfectly still because we're people, and we wiggle and we move and we fidget and we do the things. So I would give them actions, shifting about. Try to use your body language. Try to use an item on the desk for someone to mess with if it so fits their personality. These are just some ideas to throw at you. In a situation where you have three people, I hesitate to not have action to make it very clear who is speaking each time. That's why I'm kind of encouraging you that, and it's going to help show me your room, and make the space real for me. Okay, we're going to keep going. To be expected, Sam mumbles with disappointment. Why you brought this to me? Yes. What about the later occurrences? Okay, so again, I'm guessing this is Garrett. If you're thinking of the Sarah Rogers connection, I'm afraid not. Ample there to disprove any direct correlation. Ample what? I think there's something missing right here. Ample evidence there to disprove any direct correlation? Well, that's a relief. Indirect, Garrett asks. So see, I don't know who's speaking here either, because we've got two no dialogue tabs. I'm guessing Sam, this is probably either Scott or Garrett. And then this is either Scott or Sam. And then this is Garrett. Yeah, I want to say we need dialogue tags, but I don't want you to just give me states, asks, starts, stops, all that. I want you to give them actions. You don't always have to do. You don't always have to do a dialogue tag in the sense of asks, speaks, says, shouts, cries, etc. You get the point. If you are giving a wiggle, which is body language or a facial expression or something to the accord of the person speaking with the dialogue, I will know which person is speaking. Like this is Sam hints with concern. But I'm telling you that if you give Sam an action, it's going to make her more real, more personable, and it's going to also give me a hint of her mental tone. It's going to give me a tone for her voice by showing me her body language and action and attitude. And then I'll know what voice to use when I'm reading their dialogue. So you're going to bring your room to life. That's what I'm asking you to do. Okay. Sam snickers. Might be crazy around here, but I do watch the news. Got to keep up somehow. Amanda brought it up. Not she shakes her head, her focus breaking, but the building downtown gas explosion, more than an accident. It screamed cover up on a grand scale. Did I skip? I skipped. I got lost. Back with Sarah Rogers. What about the to be expected? Sam mumbles with disappointment. Why you brought this to me? We're looking, not coming up with anything new. I think I got caught up in who is speaking and determining who is speaking, and I actually didn't absorb the dialogue I was reading because I was like, there's no dialogue tag, and then I needed to talk about it, and then I lost my place. Okay. I've really lost my place, like for real. My brain is not even soaking up my dialogue. So we got the conversation. Okay, where did I leave off? I gotta find it. Okay, we're gonna start from here because I remember tripping over the puzzle part. And then my brain just kind of like tripped all over itself because I was realizing there was things I needed to say. And so I stopped to get them out before I forgot them. And then I lost my place. So we're going to pick it up right here where I remember having this issue. And my brain is terrifying me at the moment. Okay. Afraid there is, buried in a data trail, had to be, only way. She shakes her head as if some age-old puzzle missing an important piece. Yes, I forgot. I'm trying to omit that. As if some age-old puzzle was missing an important piece. Yes, Garrett says. Any surveillance, video, audio, accidentally snapped tourist photo or the like available, especially in the earlier occurrences, as I was incapacitated for most of that time frame. So Sam is referring back to when she was paralyzed. We're looking, but we've not come up with anything new. To be expected, Sam mumbles with disappointment. Why you brought this to me? Yes, what about the later occurrences? If you're thinking of the Sarah Rogers connection, I'm afraid not. Ample evidence there to disprove any direct correlation. I'm reminding you to tuck evidence in there. Well, that's a relief. Indirect, Garrett asks. The possibility has always been open, Sam hints with concern. The reason for the inquest, the ties to the most recent transaction, assumed one of the victims. Yes, you got all that from, Garrett starts, then stops abruptly. Sam snickers. Might be crazy around here, but I do watch the news. Got to keep up somehow. Amanda brought it up. She shakes her head, her focus breaking. But the building downtown, gas explosion, more than an accident. It screamed cover-up on a grand scale. You're not alone in that conspiracy. And should it say conspiracy theory? Is it a theory or is it a fact? I mean, I'm guessing it's probably a fact if it's Sam, but at the same time, does he want to... I don't know. I kind of want a theory there. I could be wrong, obviously, because I don't have all the information you do. You're not alone in that conspiracy theory or conspiracy. Other interested parties, she asks, brought to my attention by an unexpected yet reliable source. Steiner. Indirectly, how did you... Sam's demeanor relaxes. Your tone of voice changed. See how... Okay, so you've got her demeanor relaxing, but I don't know that I read it with tension or if I read it with the right voice or tension because you've not shown to me her body language. You've not shown me her attitude, I have no internal thoughts from her. My goodness. People driving by are loud. I have no internal thoughts from her either. So I don't know where her headspace is. So I'm reading, but I don't know if I'm using the right voice. And I think that might be part of why I'm getting lost because I'm trying to think of all these different things that I need to get the full picture. Sam's demeanor relaxes. Your tone of voice changes in this noticeable way when you're referencing him. Unique shorthand tell. Smiling, she shrugs in relation to Scott's confused disposition. See, I don't know that Scott's confused. You got to show me some body language from Scott that says she's picking up on it. And what does she think about it? Of course he has to be involved. Did he take over the investigation? Wanting to, but has no evidence or reasoning to pull jurisdictional rank. I'm guessing this is Garrett talking. Okay, we're going to keep going. Well, not without sounding alarms and raising all the questions from the wrong people. However, if he does know that he does, okay, I kind of want this to be capital so that I get a real pause and put a space after the hyphen. And I kind of want that so that I'm like, and oh, you know what else you could do instead? You could have closed quotes here, a body language or action or something to the, unless this depends on who's talking. If it's Garrett, I can't see him. All right, if it's Garrett, if this is Garrett, I would go with, however, if he does hyphen, and then I'd put a space and then I would do a capital no so that I read this correctly. Because right now I'm reading it connected and you want it separate. So if this is Garrett talking, I would go with the punctuation method. If this was, I don't think it's Sam. Oh, wait, it is Sam. Look, Sam falls into thoughtful silence as her eyes dart through space. Okay. So what I would do is close quotes. I'd give her some body language to show her changing her mind. Okay. And like she's shaking her head, something like give her an action, close your eyes, visualize your scene, and then you are going to describe that scene. And that's what you need to do. And what is her body language? What is her action? What is she doing while she's speaking? Well, not without sounding alarms and raising all the questions from the wrong people. However, if he does, no. I might even have her repeat no again honestly, to give this pause. No, no, that's all wrong. Bad, but if, no, oh, that's an option. But how would he? Where's his point of entry? No, no, that's possible. Yeah, he'd have taken advantage of that back when. Possible, but no, too easy. Maybe? Sam falls into a thoughtful silence as her eyes dart through space. So, see how I used your punctuation to read it? I don't know if I've got the right tone. I'm guessing it based on the punctuation. But I don't have her body language or her internal thoughts to lend to the voice. There you go. All right, keep going. Scott watches, and a look of concern flashes across his face. Sam gives a subtle tilt of her head and a wink that she is okay and not to interrupt. Her hands begin moving steadily as if writing, occasionally erasing. Then her fingers flicker as if typing on an invisible keyboard. Scott, is she air doodling? Garrett whispers. Yeah, Scott returns. Sam stands back and peers up as if there is some grand artistic work before her. That's got to be it. Sorry, she says to Scott. I hear that can be a little disconcerting. Garrett? Still here. You got something? Not as solid as I'd like, but yeah. She re examines the invisible creation, circling an area near the center of her workspace. Those data streams cross the trunk at Westland? I'd have to verify that. Make sure we know who's talking. Probably better if you don't poke. It was more of a rhetorical question. She points her finger dead center into her circle and smiles. Slippery little. Then realizing who she is addressing. Sorry, sirs. No apology needed here, Scott says, then lends an eye towards the phone. Oh, he's heard worse. Garrett, you're eyeing someone who's on the read list. Then Steiner suspects as well, which narrowed the pool. Had to have access, but minimal, because knew about. Yeah, that was a good one. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, here we go. Just what I was going to say. Clemens, speak in full sentences. Garrett tries to gain her attention. Okay. I would do this. I would move this. I'd close your quotes right here. I'd say, Clemens, close your quotes. Garrett tries to gain her attention. Speak in full sentences. Yeah, let's try to read it that way and see what happens. Clemens, Garrett tries to gain her attention. Speak in full sentences. Again, sorry, she glances at Scott. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bryant, a detective, was here recently consulting on a case, but was really looking at one of the up-and-coming geek squad. I believe so. I'd trust your recollection on the name and reasoning more than mine, Scott returns. Sam smiles. I'll see if I can hook up with him. He's been chasing at least one of the victims for years, unsuccessfully. I gotta admit, I did not see that one. Focusing. She lets her eyes close briefly, but Scott can see them moving behind her eyelids. Yeah. So he has a stake in it, friendly enough, and would probably appreciate at least putting part of it to bed with some answers. Acumen in the field is adequate. Can get into the evidence room and poke around without stirring departmental feathers. Clemens, Garrett asks again. Letting you in now. We'll want to touch base with him. Sam opens her eyes. Something to write on? Scott pulls a post-it from a stack on his desk. She reaches for a pen and scribbles Bryant's number. Save you the trouble. Personal cell. Sam smiles as she slides it towards him. Okay, we had her smiling again. We had her smiling up here. So we're kind of leaning on the same expression. I like her action here. We have no internal thoughts throughout. And you can even swap out like grin or something just so that you're not using smile 2 times in a row. She could even wink at him. I don't know. It depends on her mood, but I'm not really sure of her mood. So we're going to keep going. He's our in, oblivious to what we are after. He's looking for answers. If not destroyed in the blast, he'll find them. Or you could use he's here if you wanted to. The gas eruption in downtown Seattle, Scott inquires. One and the same. Garrett, permission to fill him in? Sam asks. Within reason and appropriate classifications, admittedly I'm lost and I brought this to you, Garrett chuckles. Well, I think we've had chuckling earlier. But he's on the phone, so you're limited in what you can do with him because he's just a voice. He's not a person in the room, but he is, or he can feel like it if we do it right. lots to contemplate there. Steiner, with his always focused interest in things, especially where we are involved. Plus, the cross-trending data you provided makes a pretty good grid. Individuals present on and off site. I don't have all the names and faces, but I was able to eliminate most easily. And in some known activities on my own while present at certain variables, plus yours and Amanda's, confirmation of some and conflict of others, and a path starts to form. All right, so that I'm guessing is 100% Sam because her ramblings, because of her rambling. That's just how her mind works. And I did pick up on the new thing where she's scribbling in the air, so that's new. And her eyes darting back and forth while they're open. Some of these, I'm noticing these things, and I'm kind of wondering. She's changed, so she's, I guess, been changed about through her ordeal. So I'm wondering if now she's like part computer. Is she like processing, or is she changed metaphysically? We don't know. We don't know what's happened to get her back, even to get her back on her feet, because obviously she's back on her feet. So I'm really happy for that, but we don't know what her journey was to get there or how she's been altered, or now that Amanda's back in her body, we don't know what that journey was between the two of them, which is obviously very big. Okay, Garrett whispers as if not wanting to interrupt the flow. Sam, and I didn't whisper. Sorry about that. Sam continues, that's what had me lost until I backed up and broadened the scope to include the second and third strings. So it's like the scope of her search. Okay, so is her mind like a computer now? I mean, it kind of already was. It kind of was before, but in a different way. And now this is like her eidetic memory compounded into like a word, like a supercomputer. That's the impression I'm getting. I do not know if that's what you wanted, but that's kind of what I'm getting. Had to be someone low level, a grunt maybe, that was decidedly overlooked, yet had a backdoor access with some permission. Okay, my brain is also interjecting that if Sam was like, if her brain is now like a computer, that would make it a database. So did she get to keep any information she obtained while Amanda and her were sharing a body? Did she have access to Amanda's? I mean, they were sharing a brain, so she had access to Amanda's thoughts. And does that mean she had access to all the information Amanda had as well? There's a lot to unpack here. A lot. Okay, we're gonna keep going. Compare this list to that list and narrow it all down with a deductive flame to the haystack. And there's your needle. Gets better when you connect the hub and question at specific times. A happy accident? I think not. Was following there for a while, then you lost me, Garrett chuckles. Oh, we've chuckled 3 times. I mean, at least 3 times. I'm not counting. Well, I am counting now, but I wasn't counting before. Lost from the beginning, Scott says in response to Sam's glance in his direction. Sorry, me plus nervous or in pain, I tend to talk way too much. Usually I don't make sense. Oh, okay, she's nervous here? See, you got to show me that. Yep, you got to show me her mood. I don't even have her internal thoughts, so I can't even get in her mind. Recognized it for what it was. What's this detective's connection? Garrett asks. He's been chasing what most people believe to... Oops, I said people, added that. Okay. He's been chasing what most believe to be a ghost, but is in fact real. Goes by the moniker of Wraith in the cyber world, mostly in the darknet, where do-gooders are spotted a mile away. You'll need that to grab Brian's attention, she says. Imply... Oh, should that be a period? Or should the she be lowercase? Contemplating. I'm going to leave it to you. You'll need that to grab Brian's attention, she says, implying Scott should be taking notes. He should be able to lead you from there. Wraith walks both sides of... Okay, so we got 2 doubles, and that's two W's back to back, and that is why my mouth is tripping over that. Let's try it again. He should be able to lead you from there. Wraith walks both sides of the line. One of the few with the credentials to wander freely in their circles and ours, Sam offers. Sorry, Garrett. Too big of a breadcrumb? Just the right size. Undercover, Scott directs towards Garrett. Let's just say he was an ally. I almost want to see Scott lean towards the phone, look toward the phone, shift his weight forward, give him a movement. Yeah, give him a movement. Okay, we're going to keep going. Let's just say he was an ally when it suited him, with another agenda that appears to be coming to light, Garrett returns. Agreed, Sam settles. Real name? Scott asks, looking at Sam. Unknown to me, but it'd take me about 30 seconds with a list from the building to identify him, she explains. It'd be better if I didn't. Or, oops, it'd be better if I don't. Ignorance is bliss for ones like me. Let's go that route, Garrett says. Let Scott do the introductions and step back from this one. If his name is revealed, it's better if it comes from sources familiar and who have been hunting versus a well timed, convenient accident that leads back to, you know. You think it's connected to. You're the connection master. Can you disprove it? Garrett inquires. Not at this point. Better safe than sorry, she asks. Always. Sorry to drop this on you, but she's right. I'm going to need you to do some footwork, Garrett says. I'd say Scott. I'm sorry to drop this on you, Scott, but she's right. I'm going to need you to do some footwork, Garrett says. No problem. I appreciate any opportunity to get in some field work, even if I don't know what it's about. Tip didn't come from either of you, correct? Scott asks. Okay, so basically you have leaned to asks, says, said, and if you did a search through here, I think if you searched your document for asks and then did a search for says, it's going to show you how many times you have leaned on that word, those phrases throughout this text. So they're like purely true dialogue tags rather than sentences surrounding the speaker. There you go. Okay, so sentences of action or image or body language that can help you surrounding the person speaking to make clear who is speaking and to make them real and make your room come to life. Yes, there we go. Okay, we're gonna continue. Best if it didn't, Garrett suggests. Anonymous if you can pull it off. I have a better idea, Sam adds. All ears, Garrett says. Bryant was here looking into Riley. He wasn't far off in his assumptions. Sam gives Scott an apologetic twitch of her cheek for not mentioning this before. Riley has done some side work for a party rather entangled with the darknet, enough that they were crossing paths and bidding for many of the same jobs. Riley's got some mad, wicked skills that could be useful. He has an issue with authority, both taking it and dishing it out. But his need to be part of and successful to at least a mid-level position with something larger, combined with his family needs, will more than likely tip him towards the quicker cash of the dark side. Okay, that's a little bit of a long sentence. I'd rework that one just a bit, see if make it 2 at least. A much appreciated assessment. Wasn't so hard, was it? Scott asks with a smile. So, yeah, I'm going to encourage you to do the search for asks, do a search for says, chuckles. There might be a couple more. What I would do is go back and look at your dialogue and look at the tags that are on there, looking for the word that follows the name. And then you're going to see your pattern. Sam holds her hands out towards the phone. Go ahead. I was going to tell him anyway, but it's better from you. Let's see. Did I read this one? I don't know if I did. Much appreciated assessment. Wasn't so hard, was it? Scott asked with a smile. Wasn't relevant to being forthcoming at the time. Now is different. He's useful, Sam retorts. That's funny. Sam holds her hand out towards the phone. Go ahead. I was going to tell him anyway, but it's better from you. Okay, so basically, if Sam is still speaking here and she was the one speaking here, you can move this up and continue her paragraph. We, as in the Bureau, and like-minded individuals, would rather him and others like him fall towards the lawful side of things, working with us instead of against, Garrett starts, implying with his tone for Sam to continue. A few candidates have been guided carefully to this place. She opens her arms, giving a half turn. As well as to educators such as yourself to act as role models, nudging them in respectable reasons to stay on the light side of things, all unknown to them and you. She smiles at Scott. Cat's out of the bag now. I'm following, Scott says. Okay, I want kind of a facial expression or something. Yep, we got a says right there. And then you need an extra space between this paragraph and Scott's dialogue. All right, going to keep going. Some have a subconscious inability to accept someone in authority over them. That's where I came in. A peer, a friend, a possible future coworker with common desires that they can latch onto in building their own. Makes sense, Scott says, then directs his next comments to Garrett. Is this the program you were working on when you went dark a few years ago? Possibly one of many, all of which are highly classified. Garrett laughs. I almost want Garrett to laugh before he talks. Like he's amused by this, and since he's on the phone, I think it's okay to give him a sound that lets us know his mood before he speaks. I think that would be actually kind of nice, but that's just a suggestion. Let me try it for a second. Makes sense, Scott says, then directs his next comments to Garrett. Is this the program you were working on when you went dark a few years ago? Garrett laughs. Possibly one of many, all of which are highly classified. But it has been in the works for a while. And with Sam, sorry, he quickly covers. Clement's abilities and education in the human psyche, it would allow her, at least in this instance, to crack through some of the tough exteriors and find those diamonds in the rough. Looking for another Carter and Simmons, are we? Scott asks of Garrett. Similar qualities, yes. Regretfully, we're going to have to cut this one short. You were part of that team, weren't you? Sam attempts to envelop Scott into the conversation. Scott smiles in her direction. Classified. Expected nothing less, Sam chuckles, especially when he's involved. Actually, this little interaction here is working for me because I've got, interaction directly between the two characters. We did lean on chuckling again, though. All right. Heard you're bringing Carter out of retirement. Are the rumors true? Scott asks. A conversation for another day, Garrett deflects. Understood, Scott returns. In fact, Sam interjects to break the awkwardness she feels brewing. See, I didn't kind of feel awkwardness because I don't have body language between them. Anything to show me unease or discomfort. And honestly, I didn't get it further because the way that they speak, with everybody not being fully in the know on all the things, it's kind of coded always. So because they talk that way, it's generally accepted when someone tells them no in a conversation that they're not going to reveal information. So I didn't find it awkward that they continued to deny one another information. All right, we're going to keep going. Riley could be an asset on this. He's already taking on feelings of being an outsider here. His contemplation over that invisible line is pretty obvious. It might do him good to get away from the environment, especially after Brian's inquest. For us, the possibility of a better insight into who's courting him while he gets some firsthand experience of what that wrong path can bring. I like your thinking on that. Is Bryant the type to ask for his help? Garrett inquires. A little nudging from a friendly hacker I know could put the bug in his ear that Riley has something to offer. I can make sure he does. Shall I make the call? Sam asks. If you're suggesting who I think you are. The caution and concern in his voice catches Sam off guard. Okay, catches Sam off guard. I said catches. I kind of suggest that, and it doesn't quite make sense with catching. Okay, so this is telling me that there's caution in his voice. I'd have to think about how to show it when he's on the phone. You have to contemplate that. I mean, Sam can notice it like she did, but I don't want it to feel jarring because it's after the fact. So if you know what I mean, like we're kind of getting this after he's already spoken, and so it feels telling. You know what? Garrett could be quiet for a moment, like he's giving pause, like he's hesitating, and then his voice could come out low, and you could put that description in here before he speaks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she trails off, expressing they are on the same page about who they know as Amanda. Her tone and demeanor shift from one of professional composure to one of an upset and worried party. We're talking about this later, privately? That's probably best, Garrett responds. I'll be calling no video chat, Sam commands. Commands. Who's she commanding? Is she explaining or assuring? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think I'm not always reading with the right voice, and I think it's because of the lack of picture, the lack of the full picture. Okay. We're gonna keep going. Provide him whatever you can about Riley and this detective. And Scott, yes, sir. Wrangle out of this one who her three best candidates are. Put them in a team with Clemens and get them out to my office ASAP. Let's change that. Join them as their lead. I could use some old school in the building. I trust your judgment. I've got to go. The call goes dead. Sam reaches up, disconnects the speakerphone, and rests the cradle down. Well, that's that, I guess. She snags a clipboard with a handful of paper as she takes up the pen again. Too much crazy for you? She asks, reading Scott's expression like a large print children's book. Crazy? No. Confused? Very. The way you spoke with him, I feel I should be addressing him as a peer, if not a superior. Oh, that's just us. I should probably apologize. She gives a sheepish grin. When you're trusted, she falls tiredly into the chair. We drop the facade and the formality and get right to the nitty-gritty. I like this action. I like this really well. See, this is perfect. You gave her a look, and then you give her an action. Good job. Quite the shorthand you have there. And he mimics the fingers flowing through the air. Part of the package of me, she says, holding up the pen before resting it on the paper. Helps me focus, draw, doodle, use whatever tools are available. Perfect memory, don't need the actual image. Nope. Just space to put them in order and a place to dump the excess, she says as her left hand begins moving as if possessing a mind of its own. Ooh, that's so creepy and yet intriguing. One question. There's more than one, but have at it. Now's a good time. Not only do I have his permission to spill, but also she moves the pen around near her temple, then returns it to the page. It'll help clear the tangle, at least answering what I can. Therapeutic in a way. Silent contemplation passes before he speaks. Diamond or spy hunter? Both. Targeting Riley? Yes. You, or he glances at the phone. Turn this Detective Brian onto him. Yeah, rattle his cage a little, see what he'd do, who he'd turn to if he felt threatened. And, Scott leads, if you're allowed to stay. I am. Let's just sum it up as the results aren't conclusive and took an unexpected turn, she says, sinking into the task at hand, the conversation fading into the background. More to the positive aspects, though. Okay, I'm in Carpool. I had to stop and I had to get to Carpool. So now I'm here, and I gotta tell you, Carpool is in a questionable neighborhood. So I don't really know what's going to happen. We're probably going to hear cars drive by in the background, and I'm hoping that nothing else happens. Okay. This Wraith connection, what can you tell me there? That finding an in on his true identity was one of the many things I was working on. She smiles at him. Pet project of my friend Amanda's. It turns out we were chasing the same man, but from different angles. All works out in the end when the degrees of separation begin to lessen. Have to admit, it was a remote possibility Riley could be connected to him, but things have a mysterious way of falling into place when you're not looking at them. The darknet is an infinitely large place, with just as many anonymous contributors each to their varying degree. From how you reference it, you've got more than passing knowledge. One could say, she mumbles out as the pen scratches against the paper. In my younger years, I was quite the savant when it came to computers. They held my interest. Still do. Do as I say, not as your emotions unpredictably dictate. I wandered into a few places I shouldn't have for someone as immature as I was at the time, but it has a way of sniffing out people with special skills like mine. The combination made me unique and moldable enough that while sought out for one reason, the doors we needed to open were always slammed, even if existent in the first place. Your connection to Garrett made you untrustworthy to them, even with what you brought to the table. Yeah, it is what it is. However, with that experience, I gained insight into what they thought they sought. Riley was a prime candidate. We weren't the only ones looking to groom him into something else. Easier to let him be validated versus trying to falsify our way in, because try as you may, the same things we use to create an identity are the same they do. Authentic is the only way in. This party after Riley, they're using him to get into the Bureau? Not just the FBI. Honestly, I'd venture to say 80% or better of individuals, regardless of the agency, are connected somehow to a criminal entity of one degree or another. She grins, picking up something from Scott. She doesn't look up, but points her pen at him. You know what I mean. I do, he laughs. Did my time undercover. Also had my fair share of cleanup when one went rogue. Working with him, I can imagine you did. She slides into silence for a few moments. Wraith falls into that category now that I've fit a few more pieces into the puzzle. Still working for the good guys somewhat, contract basis, but went the way of rogue quite some time ago. Most recently, he slipped up with the wrong people. He and a lot of others were killed in the process. Good at covering his tracks enough that he was practically in my backyard. Up until now, it was somewhere in the city. I couldn't say more about his location.
until whatever it was, until whatever was in what Garrett sent you. Yeah. I don't like saying it, but Scott slides off. Not sure where to go with it? Sure, not where to start. Come in at the tail end blindly isn't easy. Coming in at the tail end isn't. Coming in at the tail. Okay. Boop, boop. We got an ly word, and for some reason this isn't working. Okay, hang on. Not sure where to go with it? Sure as it might be that I had to bleep that out. Sure as not where to start. Coming in at the tail end blindly isn't easy. Kudos for not even giving it a second thought. There you go. How do you do that? Know what you're thinking? Well, that's your perception of it anyway, Sam chuckles. Posturing, body language, the tone of voice, breathing patterns, a conglomeration of things. I usually keep that under wraps around people who don't know me, the complicated me. But as already suggested, you're trusted. I'm going to pause. So, all the things that I want you to give us, Sam just named them all. I am reading through. The dialogue is working as it usually does, but I don't have any of Sam's thoughts. I've got no. We're not using literally posturing, body language, and tone of voice, implied, not written, not spoken, not like said, not he said, she said, but implied through body language. We're gonna keep going. You just know that. Yep, call it a gut feeling, a worthy one. She places the pen on the desk and gets up. Hasn't been wrong yet. She turns the clipboard around and slides it in front of him. I'm going to head out. Her eyes squint. Overdid it with the brain flexing. Best to be in a quiet, dark place before a full-on migraine from heck hits me. Otherwise, who knows what deep, dark secrets will come out in my pain-induced utterances and mumblings. That's interesting. I just wonder what all happened to her in her healing, how she was healed, what has been changed in her? Is she having migraines because someone's done something with computers and implants and something? Or is it all metaphysical from like having Amanda in her brain? So many thoughts, so many possibilities. Scott examines the drawing. A spark of recognition crosses his expression. He motions to give it back to her. No, that's for you. Sometimes I find that if you stare at an image long enough, your subconscious will bring it to life and enable it to tell a story that we can't otherwise speak. I'm sorry, he asks. My way of saying thank you, she says, turning to leave the room. But what about the team recommendations? It can wait for a few hours. Garrett needs that much to set up his end. I need the same to get my head back in the game, figuring out how this play will go down, who will be involved and how. You're the reason he's always 5 steps ahead of everyone else, Scott says, his eyes entangling into the drawing, completely enveloped. He's usually at 3 on his own. I eliminate the near infinite tangents down to a handful of choices, enabling him to plot the next few. The future is unwritten. But with the right knowledge and experience, you can guide your way through safely. Scott finishes for her slowly, his words calculated as if on autopilot, eyes unmoving from the paper. Go. We'll touch base later. And you can explain. Got it, Sam says with a smile, seeing that her intent in the sketch is working. Sam makes her way out of the door, closing it softly behind her as she lets out a long, slow breath. She looks up to see her team's eyes turn upon her, their fear and concern emanating from them like a tsunami wave toward her. She braces internally for the barrage. She puts on a facade, giving them a friendly nod. Chavez puts down the file he's reviewing and starts towards her. You okay, Clemens? Yeah. Have to respectfully disagree. Looks like you've seen a ghost or something. Not too far off. Something's coming back to haunt me. She takes a breath. Admittedly, it's winning at the moment. It's okay. I'm just going to head out and get some fresh air. She gives off the vibes and nonverbal communication that she prefers he not get too close. Okay, but if you need anything. I appreciate the gesture, Sam nods. I really do. You guys keep at it. The goal is to have this solved by the end of the day or we all fail. No pressure, Chavez reasons. Sam feels his anxiety over her departure as if punched in the gut. She holds against showing any sign of sensing it and forces a smile on her face. I have faith in you. If only it were daylight savings time. Fall back. Give you an extra hour, she hints. I just need to, Chavez, catching the intended hint and her desire for space, returns to the group. Sam ducks into a conference room where she senses all eyes are off of her. She scans the room, ensuring she's alone. She leans against the wall, sinking into a crouching position, her knees pulled in tightly to her chest. She starts drawing in deep breaths as her eyes close tightly against the barrage of images and emotions attacking her psyche and physical being. My brain is working here. I like how you gave me some internal thought here. Sam feels his anxiety over her departure as if punched in the gut. So a little bit empath kind of vibes going on there for Sam. She's getting too much at one time when she opens that door. Am I right or am I wrong? Something's going on with her. Take it one at a time, she says, as if forcing herself to listen. I know I open myself up to this when I do this super processing. All you have to do is let it be heard. She draws in additional breaths, her muscles tense as the emotional pain of what feels like hundreds of individuals start to rise to the surface. Slow and steady. Release the pressure. One at a time, she begins to move gently in a rocking motion. So she's talking herself through this. I gathered she was processing too, but then here she is. She's getting hit by the energy of 100 individuals. But is it from within her or from within the people surrounding her? Was the room, there's so much going on. There's so many possibilities here. Thousands of voices cry out in various degrees in her mind, jumbled and rolling together. The most prevalent is the menagerie of baggage from the agents around her that she'd bottled from the past few days. The emotional tones trigger responses within Sam's thoughts. Wow, this sounds like it's internal and external interference. Interesting. Okay. 1. Focus on 1. She struggles to isolate a single thought. Scott, when we first encountered him, she begins to get frustrated as the information braid begins to unravel. She finds a common thread and latches onto it, using her voice and words as a central point. From her perspective, a brief flash of an image of Agent Scott, much younger, barely in his 20s, entering a lavishly decorated bedroom. That seems like an incomplete thought based on this word here. From her perspective, a brief flash of an image of Agent Scott, much younger, barely in his 20s, enters a lavishly decorated bedroom. He is in full military gear, face covered in dirt and blood, gun at the ready. The sound of sporadic weapons fire outside. Ma'am, he calls as he rushes towards her. Captain David Scott, are you capable of... His words fall short as the expression on his face tells of the horrific scene before him. The question no longer needs to be answered. The image goes dark, and Sam forces the other voices and interfering thoughts on the background and brings it back. Scott raises a knife and makes a cutting motion outside of her vision, but feels the tension release on her left wrist, then her right. She recognizes the sensation as the burns from ropes pulled at with great force. She takes a shaky, deep breath of air as every inch of her body erupts into slow, ebbing, sharp-stabbing pains. In possession of the package, Extraction Tango will need medical on board, Scott calls into his radio. He looks right into the eyes from which Sam is recalling. You're safe, ma'am. Just stay with me. He pulls a large field pad from his pack and compresses it to her abdomen. This is going to hurt. For that, I'm sorry. The image again goes dark as tears begin to flow from Sam's eyes. Her heart pounding against her chest, hands gripping her belly as if staving off bleeding. The warm, wet sensation of blood intermingled with the sting of salt in the wounds encompasses her body. She bears against the pain generated from what she knows is her mind. Okay, a couple of suggestions here. I'm going to say encompasses instead of encompassing. And then I almost want her to say groans against the pain, or hisses against the pain, or braces against the pain. Or balks from the pain, or braces for the pain. Here we go. She braces for the pain. She braces for the pain generated from what she knows is her mind. SOB, Sam sees as hits her head back against the wall. As she hits her head back against the wall. Or Sam seethes, banging her head against the wall, something to that accord. The memory returns with momentary flashes as she is carried across a large field on Scott's back. The sound, rhythmic bursts of light, the smell of sweat, blood, and gunpowder are all enveloped by the sheer terror she feels as the others defend against rapid gunfire. The blades of a nearby chopper are deafening but welcomed. A brief flicker from inside a chopper as Scott counts off compressions above her. Brief flickers from inside a chopper as Scout counts off compressions above her. Brief flickers. Images from inside a chopper flicker across her mind as Scout counts off compressions above her. I'm kind of getting the visual you want here, but there's this first part is not. It's either an incomplete. I don't know. There's something not working about this beginning part. The blades of a nearby chopper are deafening but welcomed. I'm also thrown off because I think we have chopper twice right here, so I was also detracted from that. I'd fool with this sentence a little bit. Just a little bit. Darkness, stillness, nothingness. So it's like she's what is she using to recount this image? Is this like a past life? She's known him in a past life. Or she's getting this information from something that happened with her from when Amanda was with her, and now she's able to tap into this information. Oh, the questions. Sam holds her one breath and then exhales it with a gasping cough as the barrage subsides. She wipes the tears from her eyes and winces as she attempts to move. The residual feelings from the wounds of her recollection remain. She drops back to the wall. Damn, you couldn't pick something less excruciating, she whispers to herself through gritted teeth. Her eyes fall closed as the pain subsides. A bright light fills her visual cortex, settling to a muddled blurriness that matches the numbness she recognizes all too well from the time she'd spent paralyzed in the hospital years before. Myra? A familiar voice echoes. Here, sir, Sam senses herself saying, as if in the body of someone else. The image comes into better focus. A younger Garrett was sporting a few days' facial hair growth. The bags under his bloodshot eyes matched. We thought we'd lost you there for a while, Garrett says. Me too, she forces out, attempting to swallow, but the dryness of her throat, the roughness of her lungs force her to cough. Don't try to talk. They hurt you something awful, but the doctors say you'll make a full recovery. Minimal scarring. Don't worry. We got your message and found Harry. He's being tended to and will be here as soon as he's able to travel. And a healthy baby girl. She's safe. He smiles warmly. I held every hope you would wake so I could deliver the good news. So this was Sam's mother, and that Harry's her dad. So why is she having a flashback of her mother? And Scott was there. I'm so confused. I'm pulling pieces together, but at the same time, I'm a new type of confused. I guess. I guess probably at how this is possible. Yes, maybe that. Sam feels her heart jump into her throat distancing. Okay, how about this? Sam's heart jumps into her throat as relief flows throughout her. Something about, I think needs to go. Sam, and we don't want to say feels. Sam's heart leaps to her throat as relief seeps throughout her or floods through her. Sam's heart leaps to her throat as her muscles uncoil against the okay, I'll tell you what's not working and I'll leave it to you. How's that? I'm gonna admit I'm so close to the end of this read and I want to finish it because once my kid gets in this car, that's going to be the end of my day. I know it. But I'm also in a really sketchy neighborhood and there's a lot going on around me and it's a little bit distracting and I'm kind of frustrated by it. I've got my car windows up, my door locked, and the air conditioning on, but I'm waiting for someone to come yell at me because that is not unheard of in this carpool. And it doesn't mean it's one of the other carpoolers, but it very well could be. It's just that kind of area. So I'm kind of watching what's going on around me. And there is movement at the moment. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to finish up here. So, this is Sam being born. There's just so much here. There's so much here. So much. Okay. I got to focus. Okay. Then, as quickly as the barrage had started, it subsides, the silent reality of the conference room returning. Sam makes a rushed visual check of herself, ensuring all is functional and moving. I would play with this sentence above. It was a little bit awkward. The relief, we don't want the in there. I know that for sure. And feels is distancing. So rework it however it pleases you, but I'd take out those two things. There you go. She runs her hand through her hair. Oh, sure, all the pain, suffering, agony, none of the good stuff. I see how you are. I cannot believe, she chuckles, shaking her head. I'm arguing with the committee. Yeah, you've been named. Oh, that's interesting development right there. So she's connected to the committee through what? Through whatever happened between her and me. I'm so, okay. I understand something's happening where she's not hooked up to a computer, but maybe she's got it. I mean, we don't know what happened to her to make her better. We don't know. But I get what's happening, and I get that it's internal, and she ain't plugged into anything, not a chain or a cord or a loop. So I get it, but I'm still curious as to how it works. Sam pulls to her feet and brushes down her attire. She rolls her eyes as a voice echoes in her memory. 1. Focus on 1. Scott, when we first encountered him, she hears herself saying. Now we're throwing my coping mechanisms against me. She reaches down and untucks a leather band with the crystal dangling from beneath her shirt. She holds up the necklace where she can see it. It glows gently. I'd just throw out the adverb. It glows. Maybe the color? How about that? Maybe it glows and tell the color. That'd be descriptive. Yeah, let's do that. That's just mean and dangerous. What if someone would have walked through the door? You know what? Nope. I'm letting it go for now. I have work to finish, but when I have time, we will sort this out. Agreed? Sam waits for a response, but doesn't receive anything. I'm not going to have another... There's 2 buts in here. Sam waits for a response, but doesn't receive anything. Save for a feeling of being punished for doing what was asked of them. What was asked of them? What? Hang on. Sam waits for a response, but doesn't receive anything, but a feeling of being punished for doing what was asked of them. Asked of herself? She's a them? Did her pronouns change? Okay, hang on. Sam waits for a response, but doesn't receive anything, save for the feeling of being punished for doing what was asked of her. We're going to go with that. Seriously? You're going to play that card? She rolls her eyes. If I'd known then what I do now, we have no, I think we meant now, N-O-W. I'd have let her have it all when we split. Hell, I'd have begged her to. Gladly would have preferred to be a brain-dead vegetable to this 3-ring insanity circus. She rolls her eyes again. And I'm playing right into it by talking to myself yet again. Okay, so we've got, I don't know if I'd do the eye rolling twice. I mean, you could. She could sigh. She could throw up her hands. She could rub her face. There's a lot of things we can do when we're put out. Okay, I'm gonna read your closing notes. I have left Scott vague in the description as it was just today. I finally got a visualization of him thanks to a chat I was having. So it's just defining what he looks like in my oh so subtle way. Okay. All right. So much happened in here. I'm glad to be back with Sam. I'm glad she's back on her feet. I am so curious as to what has happened to her, how these things have unfolded, how she got separated from Amanda, how her mind is working now, what's been done to her. I'm guessing this crystal has something to do with, does she use it? I mean, she doesn't have to put her hand on it or anything. She's just wearing it. So is she using it through contact? I'm curious as to how all this works, but I don't want you to tell me. I want you to show me and have it unfold in the story. So, but I'm curious about this tie back with her mom and her being born, and Scott was there. Does he know? Did he know Myra? How old is Scott? Oh, so many questions. Okay, a lot. This is a lot. And once again, I will replay it back for myself, and I'll pick up even more than I did when I read it. But as always, so much. And I cannot imagine the roadmap. You have for all this. I can't. How do you keep it straight? How do you keep this straight? Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, guys. That is it for, I believe we're on chapter 7. So, small world. Yeah, I'd say it's a small world after reading that. Okay. I will see you guys for chapter 8. Yep. I'll see you yes, I will get my words and my mouth and my brain to work together yes, I'm going to focus. Okay. I will see you guys next time when we read Chapter 8 for Crystal Committee of Infinite Shades. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Mystery Red Reads.